Hour number 3 of Josh and Swain is here. Thank you for being here with us. Sports Talk will take over coming up at 3 o'clock alongside VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain. I'm Josh Ward, and we're excited to welcome to the show Ben McKee, GoVols247.com, covering Tennessee basketball last night with a buzzer beater win for Vanderbilt over Tennessee. Ben, thanks for the time as always. What did you take out of that game? What happened late? How Tennessee has played recently? What did you walk away thinking after that game for Tennessee?
Yeah, just how disappointing the night was for Tennessee. I did think that they played better offensively than they had the past couple of games, but that's also not saying much given how poor they were playing offensively. But you shoot 46%, and you out-rebound Vanderbilt as well. Obviously, that's more of a defensive stat at times, but you had more offensive rebounds. You outscored them in the paint. Your bench outscored them, and turnovers have been a bit of a bugaboo at times for this Tennessee team, and they only had 9, so to keep that in single digits was a great sign. And you had role players step up. Tyreek Key was absolutely tremendous, 14 points with a great shooting night. Tobe Awaka was also tremendous, 8 points, 9 rebounds. Julian Phillips had 10 points and 4 rebounds. He played really well, obviously had the debacle of sorts there at the end when he should have dunked the basketball. But I just thought the late game execution was really poor, and it's really unfortunate that was a theme for last night's game, because Olivier Kamwa starts off that final minute knocking down a huge mid-range jumper to give Tennessee a lead, and then Tennessee gets a defensive stop, and there's a loose ball, and Zakai Ziegler is able to come up with it. And unfortunately for Tennessee, they were not in the double bonus just yet, so they did have to inbound the basketball 4 or 5 times, and they did a great job of inbounding the basketball. And I know that sounds really simple, but we just saw them on Saturday against Auburn struggle to get the basketball in, even if they were maybe aided with a foul on Santiago Vescovi that was not called. But they're doing all these great things in the final minute, and it's looking like they're going to squeak out a win, and then all of a sudden Julian Phillips does not dunk the basketball. And certainly fair to point out, but I walk away criticizing Santiago Vescovi more than I criticize Julian Phillips. You just got to make that front end of the 1-and-1. And not only that, what I thought was worse than missing the free throw was him leaving his man in the corner and leaving Tyron Lawrence just wide open for a three after, according to Rick Barnes, they had just talked in the timeout about not allowing Vanderbilt to shoot a three-point shot. They thought that Vanderbilt was going to go downhill, which they did. And they thought that they were going to try and get the ball to Liam Robbins. They thought that's what Vanderbilt was going to try to do. But whatever you do, don't allow a wide-open three. And Santi helped off his man when he didn't have to. Zakai Ziegler was on the Vanderbilt player's hip right at the rim and was going to force a contested layup. But because Santi left Tyron Lawrence in the corner, Lawrence was wide open and was able to make that three. So I walk away thinking that Vanderbilt kind of smacked Tennessee from the three-point range, got a little lucky there with Liam Robbins and Tyron Lawrence shooting better than their season percentages showed. But the late-game execution really in the final 15 seconds or so was, I thought, really disappointing from a veteran basketball team.
Where would you rank this team right now? KenPom has their ranking, all these metrics, and the metrics don't mean anything if you don't execute and you don't win the game at the end of the game. Where would you put Tennessee kind of in the pecking order in the SEC and nationally? Because you know Tennessee's going to fall. I guess it only matters or depends on how far Tennessee will fall. But where do you think Tennessee should be kind of ranked and in the pecking order?
Well, nationally, they're certainly not the second-best team in the country. That's what they were ranked on KenPom. To be honest with you, I have not checked today, so I don't know what they fall for. I still don't think they're a top-5 basketball team. I think they have the ingredients to be a top-5 basketball team, but they don't pass the eye test. The metrics are one thing, and they are a great tool. They are a great resource, but they are not the end-all, be-all, that being the analytics. And they just haven't quite passed the eye test for me to that extent this season. I do think they're one of the better teams in college basketball, but to be talked about as one of the front runners for a national championship, I think in hindsight that conversation was premature, because this team over this next month really needs to make some strides particularly on the offensive end. They need to become more consistent. Individuals need to become more consistent. And if that happens, then obviously the offense as a whole will become more consistent. So I think they're a top 15, maybe a top 10 basketball team. I would feel most comfortable just saying they're top 15 basketball team. And look, that's still really good. I think the most simple way to say it is they're a good basketball team. They're not a great basketball team that also has the potential to be a great basketball team. And if you want to take the glass half full approach, it is February 9th, and they have a whole month to get ready to March. And that's for March. And that's when you want to be playing your best basketball. So they're certainly not the sixth best team in the country in my mind. They're not top five, as Kim Palm would indicate. In the SEC, I do think that's a more interesting conversation because I do think the league is a little bit down this season. Alabama is without a doubt the best team in the league, and I think I would still put Tennessee as the second best team in the SEC, but there's some teams that are really improving and really starting to creep up on Tennessee. Texas A&M looks really good. Kentucky has gotten better over the last month. Arkansas is getting better. Auburn, obviously Tennessee just beat Auburn, but they're a fringe top 25 team as well. They're capable of knocking off Tennessee. I don't think there's some grave difference between Tennessee and Auburn. So I still think Tennessee is the second best team in the SEC, Swain, but I think the rest of the pack has closed in on Tennessee rather than Tennessee staying on par with Alabama.
Let's continue with the glass half full approach. Ben, if you can take anything positive away from last night's game, what would it be?
Well, it's what I said earlier. It's that the role players stepped up and really played well. And aside from the late game execution, I think that's why Tennessee is going to really be kicking itself when it reviews the tape and talks about the game amongst themselves. They're role players that they need to play well. They played well. Tyreek Key was tremendous, and they need more of that Tyreek Key. And he's kind of been forced into more of a primary ball handler role because Tennessee struck out in the transfer portal trying to add another veteran point guard. And you saw when Zakai Ziegler gets into foul trouble or when he's playing poorly, that hampers the offense so much. So you certainly don't fault Rick Barnes for trying to put somebody else in that primary ball handler role. You have to have a second primary ball handler. But I think it's kind of thrown off Tyreek Key in a way. I think he's a natural scorer. I think that's what he does best. And because of there's been so much of a focus on taking care of the basketball and initiating the offense, I think that's kind of taken away from his ability to score. But last night he showed what he was at Indiana State, and that's just a natural-born scorer. And a team that needs more offense, I think they need to utilize him more in that manner. So that was great to see. We'll see if he can be consistent. But if this team is going to reach its potential, it needs Tyreek Key and also Julian Phillips to play the way that it did last night at Vanderbilt. I thought Julian Phillips was awesome as well outside of that late game play. I said it earlier, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 or 5 from the field. He looked really good. And he was full of energy. He was hustling everywhere, trying to save the basketball before it goes out of bounds and hitting the glass really hard. He was just all over the place on top of being able to score 10 points. So I thought the role players played extremely well, and that's what this team needs on top of Santi and Josiah and Zakai and probably Olivier as well. Those guys have to play well every single night, but if they're going to go as far in March as they want to, they need those role players to play the way that they did against Vanderbilt.
Ben McKee, GoVols247.com. Great points, I think, on Julian Phillips. That's a game to build on. I thought we talked about that earlier in the show, despite the mistake that happened at the end of the game. Out the door, we're 8 days away from the start of Tennessee baseball season. What are you going to be looking for next week when the Vols head out west to Arizona to play?
Yeah, the simple answer is just what the lineup looks like. And for the most part, we know what the lineup is going to look like. On the mound, I'd be very surprised if it's not Chase Dolander, Chase Burns, and Drew Beam Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Interested to see kind of the pecking order in the bullpen to start the season. And you've got some X factors out there that if they click this season, then that pitching staff is just going to be an absolute nightmare for opponents to deal with. But in the lineup, you kind of know what the infield's going to look like. Griffin Merritt, the Cincinnati transfer, he's going to be in left field. But what does center field and right field look like? Who starts behind the plate, whether that's Cal Stark or Charlie Taylor? But Tony Vitello said it in numerous interviews as well. There's going to be a different lineup in the outfield, probably each of the 3 games next weekend. So just the simplistic answer of just seeing what the lineup looks like. And they have some tough tests right out of the gate. Arizona is a good baseball program on Friday night to deal with. Then they play Grand Canyon on Saturday, and I believe they're playing at Grand Canyon, which makes it a true road game. And their shortstop is a projected top 5, top 10 pick in June's draft. They have a sneaky good baseball program as well. So they're going to be tested right out of the gates, and Tennessee's going to have to be ready to play right out of the gate next Friday night.
Come on, Blue. Come on, Blue. I'm ready, man. I'm ready, Ben.
That's funny because I don't know this to be 100% fact, but I believe good old Jeffrey Macias, the umpire that Tony V may or may not have chest bumped last season. I want to say that he's going to be one of the umpires in rotation.
Yes.
That opening weekend. So that should be interesting.
You mean the Ben Stiller looking dude?
Yes. I believe, I don't know this for fact, but I believe he is going to be umpiring one of Tennessee's games next weekend.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Tony. Don't do it to him.
That's the nugget of the conversation right there.
That's it. That's one thing I heard.
I love it. GoVols247.com. That's where you can read his work. Ben McKee covering everything going on with Tennessee. Thanks for the time as always, Ben, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Ben McKee joining us on the Stanley Fencing and Gates Hotline.
Well, good to see old Ben McKee.